we are going with the answer writing program as far as the general studies paper 2 is concerned. So, as you know very well, learning the subject is one aspect, but its effective presentation is another aspect. Okay. So, you may be having many ideas how to write answer, but however, when you keep it on the paper, definitely the perspective changes. Okay. So, that is why we need to understand the concept properly, then we can present it in a proper manner, right. So, let us look at this question. This question has been taken from General Studies paper 2 of 2024 mains UPSC, right. So, what is the question about? The duty of CAG is not merely to ensure legality of expenditure, but also its a propriety comment, okay, right. So, before we understand this particular demand of the question, briefly let us understand what is the role of CAG, okay, what is the role of CAG, okay. CAG is nothing but Comptroller and Auditor General of India, Comptroller and Auditor General of India. So, what is the role of the CAG, okay. So, actually in the parliamentary form of democracy, Lok Sabha acts as owner of the public purse, owner of the public purse, okay. Being the owner of the public purse, Lok Sabha authorizes government to spend the money, authorizes government to spend the money in the form of budget, in the form of budget, right. Then what the government has to do? Government has to spend the money within the limits of the budget. Government needs to spend money within the limits of the budget, limits of the budget, right. And it is the requirement of Lok Sabha whether the money is spent within the limits of the budget or not. So, hence the Lok Sabha, that is a parliament, has to supervise the government whether the government is really spending the money within the limits of the budget or not, right. So, this requires supervision by parliament, particularly Lok Sabha. But you understand, since the budget involves a lot of technical things, lot of complex accounting system, complex scenario, okay, which cannot be within the competence of the parliament to understand all these technical things. So, parliament may not be having the technical competence to supervise or scrutinize the quality of government expenditure and legality of the government expenditure. That is the reason why our parliamentary form of democracy, our constitution makers have adapted the British system, that is what called as CAG, Comptroller and Auditor General of India. The CAG is nothing but he is the watchdog of the public purse, watchdog of the public purse, and it is created under Article 148 of the Constitution, right. So, this means the CAG will be trying to audit the public finances, both appropriation account as well as finance account, so that whether the government is spending the money within the limits of the budget or not, and with respect to the purpose designated in the budget or not. So, it will be understanding whether the purpose is served or and the legal aspects of the budget is fulfilled, whether the government is spending the money as per the sanctioned amount in the budget or not, right. So, this is how the CAG is an important agency on behalf of the parliament. That is why it is called as watchdog of the public purse. That is why CAG is a mechanism which will be providing audit reports, which will be providing audit reports, right, audit reports. Audit reports primarily of three aspects, three audit reports it will be producing. Number one is appropriation, audit report on appropriation account, okay, audit report on finance account, audit report on the accounts of PSU. So, this is how the CAG will be producing three types of audit reports, right. Then these three types of audit reports are generally submitted to the president. It is submitted to the president. Okay. Then what does the president do? The president will cause these reports to be laid down in the parliament. Laid down in parliament. Okay. So that means the reports are made available in the parliament. Okay. And what does the parliament do? The parliament will go through these reports, and in the parliament there is a special committee, okay, that is a financial committee called as Public Accounts Committee. There is a committee called as Public Accounts Committee. This Public Accounts Committee will be scrutinizing the reports as such they are submitted by the CAG. And particularly the PSC is assisted by, it is assisted by CAG itself. So that's why CAG is known as friend, guide and philosopher of the constitution. I mean friend, guide and philosopher of the Public Accounts Committee. Friend, guide and philosopher of the Public Accounts Committee. This is how the overall mechanism looks like. Okay, right. So in this context, what is the question asked? The duty of the CAG is not merely to ensure legality of expenditure, but also its propriety. So this understanding this terminology is very important. Right. Let us understand how to write the introduction now. Alright. So in the introduction we will write CAG is a constitutional body, Article 148, which acts as watchdog of the public purse. By auditing the income and expenditure side of government to help the effective supervision over public finances by Parliament, thus upholding the accountability of executive to Lok Sabha. That is under Article 75, Class 3 of the Constitution. This is how you need to write the introduction. Okay. So in the introduction includes, what is it? CAG is a constitutional body which acts as watchdog of the public purse by auditing the income and expenditure side, that is appropriation accounts and finance accounts of the government, to help the effective supervision over the public finances by Parliament, thus upholding the accountability of executive to the Lok Sabha, that is Prime Minister and Council of Ministers to Lok Sabha. This is how you write the introduction. And then what are the keywords here? The duty of CAG is not merely to ensure legality of expenditure, but also its propriety. Right. Let us understand. Okay. So we need to write these two aspects. Okay. First of all, CAG ensures legality of expenditure. Legality of expenditure. So it means the CAG conducts legal audit. That means CAG. So this is what body of answer. CAG conducts. So this is side heading. Okay, we can write this way. CAG conducts legal audit. Legal audit. Which means whether the government has spent money within the limits of the budget, because budget is what? A legal document, right? because budget is nothing but a law. So naturally, legal audit will verify whether the government spent money within the limits of the budget or not, and has spent the money for given purpose. The money for given purpose or not. Okay, right. We can write some example. Okay, for instance, if money has to be transferred from one head to another head, or if money has been spent excess to the allocation, such expenditure must be authorized by Lok Sabha by means of token grants or excess grants respectively. Okay, excess grant respectively. Next, in the next dimension, we can write another point here. Okay, in the legal audit itself, in case such authorization is not made by Lok Sabha, okay, in case such authorization is not made by Lok Sabha, the discrepancy will be highlighted by CAG and brings it to the notice of PSC. So this is how the CAG will generally, not ensuring of course, it will it will identify whether the government has spent money within the legal limit or not, whether government has respected the particular budget document or not. So that will be analyzed by means of legal audit. Okay, right. So then what is the question? Not only CAG not only ensures legality of expenditure, but also its propriety. Okay, right. So then what is the meaning of propriety? Right. How, next line we need to write that, however, the CAG's audit does not only involve legal scrutiny, but also propriety in expenditure. Okay, right. By means of propriety audit. Right. Then what is the meaning of propriety audit? We need to explain what is propriety audit here. Okay, right. We need to write here propriety audit means verifying or examining or verifying whether the expenditure conforms conforms to the wisdom, fairness, and purpose of expenditure. Okay, so it means, in other words, propriety audit, will bring to the light about the ethics involved in public expenditure. Ethics involved in the public expenditure. Ethical side of the public expenditure. Why? Because the propriety audit, because it is important, because the legal audit does not explain the actual purpose of expenditure. We need to explain the example. Okay, for instance, usually an expenditure may conform to the legality, but may fail the test of propriety. Right. In what way? In what sense? Means, for example, it means we need to write examples how a given expenditure may fulfill the test of legality, but it may fail to fulfill the test of propriety. Right? How? For example, the public official, public authority may give the contract or tender without a competitive bidding. So you understand, the money is very much laid down in the heads of the budget, within the space or within the space that is provided by the budget. Suppose government has spent 10,000 crores as it is in the budget. Yes, it is conforming to the legality, but what is it failing? Okay, it is failing with respect to wisdom, fairness, and faithfulness. This is failing because you did not use the public money with proper ethics, proper value system. You are simply trying to utilize the public money for your personal purpose or for the sake of corruption. Okay, sometimes, okay, the money may be spent as per law, but the expenditure on that matter may not be necessary. Okay, may not be necessary. Right. For instance, in public procurement, this kind of problem may arise. Public procurement, like purchasing high-end cars, despite it does not require. It does not require. Okay, and particularly you can also find another important point. For example, March rush. Okay, right. What is March rush? Generally, at the end of, at the fag end of the year, the government may spend all the allocated funds for the fear of lapsability of the funds if they are not used before March 31st. Okay, this is what called a March rush. So March rush also indicates, okay, so the March rush also indicates the expenditure which lacks ethics in terms of wisdom, because it is not wise, because you need to plan the expenditure properly all throughout the year. When you are spending the money at one go means, so there might be some element of corruption, there might be some element of siphoning of the public money for your private purpose, right? So that's why it is lacking wisdom, it is lacking faithfulness, it is also lacking fairness. Okay, so when any audit is identifying the wisdom, faithfulness and fairness of the public funds, okay, of expenditure of the public funds, it is called as propriety audit. Okay, legality of audit will simply verify whether the money is sanctioned in the budget or whether the authority confirms to the officer whether the officer is having the authority to spend the money or not. That is what legality. But in the propriety audit, the auditor will be identifying is it wise expenditure, is it a proper expenditure, is it an appropriate expenditure. Okay, if it is your personal money, how do you spend? Okay, whether there is a responsibility in the expenditure or not, whether does it really serve a purpose or not. So that particular identification is done by means of propriety audit. Okay, right. So this is how we need to understand. So that's how we can understand. Hence, in the propriety audit, propriety and legal audit, okay, in combination with performance audit will present the effectiveness of public finances in a holistic manner. Right. So performance audit means it is an audit whether the funds are able to achieve efficiency, economy and effectiveness, whether the funds allocation or expenditure has resulted in the achievement of goals or not. Okay. So this is how we can understand. Moreover, we can also write the Supreme Court's judgment. Okay. Supreme Court in Union of Telecom Service Providers versus Union of India held that the CAG can conduct the propriety audit even for those private entities who got allocated with spectrum and does it lead to any potential loss to the public exchequer or not? Okay. So, that is how Supreme Court, even Supreme Court also recognized the importance of proprietary audit in this particular case. Okay. Right. So, eventually we can also write some table. Okay. Right. Legal audit versus proprietary audit. Legal audit versus proprietary audit. Right. So, legal audit will, the objective of legal audit is to verify a given expenditure authorized by budget. Okay. Not only that, whether such expenditure conforms to the authority which operates it. Okay. Right. And here the proprietary audit, it verifies whether the expenditure conforms the ethics or not, because law does not explain the real purpose. Okay, ethics or not. So, which means expenditure, whether it serves public interest or appropriateness. Okay. Okay. And true intent of the policy. Okay. Next, it highlights illegality. Okay. Here it highlights unethical or expenditure involves self-dealing or unfairness in the expenditure. Unfairness in the expenditure. Right. So, legal audit primarily focuses whether executive follows the financial plan or not. Right. Here, whether executive implements or follows the financial plan with wisdom, fairness and faithfulness. Okay. So, that is why government, so here it explains about quantitative side. Here it explains qualitative side, because here public servant must uphold the trusteeship, because public servant is not, or government is not something a profitable entity. Okay, government must be acting like a trust for the public money. Whether the trusteeship is displayed by the government in the expenditure side or not, that is what called as qualitative side. That is what called as qualitative side. Okay. For example, whether are you allocating the money for the real purpose or not. Already government is having sufficient infrastructure. You want to just spend the money and you want to create additional infrastructure without any serving any purpose. Okay, within the office space, suppose furniture is there, you got allocated with certain money. For example, 10 lakh rupees money has been allocated for your department. You do not know what to do with that money because you already have proper infrastructure or proper office infrastructure or furniture, etc. But you still want to purchase the furniture despite you are having the furniture. That is not highlighting what is that wisdom on part of the public servant. Okay, legality, yes, the legality does not expose. Why? Because the legal audit simply says whether the government has spent the money within the limits of the budget or not. So this is how. Okay, right. So let us write conclusion. Okay, so in the conclusion we need to write, thus the CAG performs legal, propriety and performance audit, okay, which highlight legality, wisdom and effectiveness of public finance or public expenditure, public finance management. Thus empowering Parliament, that is particularly Lok Sabha, to extract accountability from executive. Thus the public interest is upheld. Public interest is upheld, having close scrutiny over the income and expenditure side of the budget. Okay, right. So thus CAG performs legal, propriety and performance audit, which highlights legality, wisdom and effectiveness of the public finances, public finance management, thus empowering the Parliament to extract accountability from executive. Thus in turn the public interest is upheld, having close scrutiny over the income and expenditure side of the budget by CAG. So this is how. Okay, I hope you understood the every aspect of the answer, right? So what did we write in the introduction? Okay, so in the introduction, right, CAG is what? A constitutional body. We have written CAG is what? Constitutional body under Article 148, which acts as watchdog of the public purse, and by auditing the income and expenditure side of the budget to help the effective supervision over the public finances. Later we have mentioned CAG ensures legality of expenditure, okay, because the question has this particular component. So CAG conducts legal audit, which means whether the government has spent money within the limits of the budget and spent the money for the given purpose or not. For instance, if the money has to be transferred from one head to another head, if money has been spent excess to the allocation, such expenditure must be authorized by Lok Sabha by means of token grant and excess grant respectively. In case such authorization is not made by Lok Sabha, the discrepancy will be highlighted by CAG and brings it to the notice of PSC, right. However, CAG's audit does not only involve legal scrutiny but also propriety in expenditure by means of propriety audit. Propriety audit means examining or verifying whether the expenditure conforms to the wisdom, fairness, purpose, or we can say here we can write this point. What is it? Faithfulness. Faithfulness of the expenditure. And in other words, propriety audit will bring to the light about the ethics involved in the public expenditure. It is important because the legal audit does not explain the actual purpose of expenditure. For instance, usually the expenditure may conform to the legality but may fail the test of propriety. So here we have written certain examples. For example, 3 examples we have written. One is public authority may give contract or tender without any competitive bidding. So this is violating wisdom, faithfulness and fairness. So the trust which is upheld on the government servant is being violated, right, by siphoning of the money as per his own personal interests. The money may not be spent as per the law, but expenditure on that matter may not be necessary. The money may be spent as per the law. For example, in public procurement, purchasing high-end cars despite it does not require, right. March rush. At the fag end of the year, the government may spend all the allocated funds for the fear of lapsability of the funds if they are not used before March 31st. So this March rush will be leading to overspending of the money or inappropriate spending of money also. So they are in a mood that the money must be spent. That's it. The money must be spent. Then what is the outcome are you generating? The government has no answer. Okay, right. So the March rush also indicates expenditure which lacks wisdom, faithfulness and fairness. So the propriety and legal audit in combination with performance audit will present the effectiveness of the public finances in the holistic manner. For example, Supreme Court in Union Telecom Service Providers versus Union of India held that the CAG can conduct the propriety audit even for those private entities. So now we have discussed about legal audit. So here we need to understand another point here. The legal audit exposes the lapse on part of the government expenditure only, but the propriety audit will not only expose the lapse on part of the government but also the private sector as well. Okay, so this is how we written the differences. So what is legal audit here? What is propriety audit here? So we have already discussed all these points. Then finally, it is the conclusion. Okay, thus the CAG performs propriety and performance audit, which highlight the legality, wisdom and effectiveness of the public finance management, thus empowering the parliament to extract the accountability from executive. Thus the public interest is upheld, having the close scrutiny over the income and expenditure side of the government of the budget by CAG. So this is how we need to write the answer. Okay, I hope you got to the point how to write answers, how to begin the answer, how to develop the answer. Okay, tomorrow also there is a live session on another question. Please stay tuned. If you have any doubts or queries, please feel free to place your comments in the comment box. Thank you.